you so much, Cheryl, and thank you so much, Jim, for the invitation to join the Lenfest Institute. My name is Joyel Crawford, and I like to say that I grow leaders for a living. And so it was an honor to be tapped for this opportunity. And I have to tell you, I am so excited about the opportunity that you have, and then everyone's like, it's a conference, and now we can't even go in person, but there's so much we can, like, I just love to suck the life out of a conference experience. So when Cheryl was talking about this opportunity to speak with the group about it, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell them everything I possibly can about making the most out of a conference experience, especially because there's so much that we can gain. And when we think about it as people of color, there's a component that we don't necessarily, or maybe we do, think about when we're going to a conference. And I would love to kick this off with an icebreaker. Oh yes, it is a Zoom icebreaker. I'm sure you all are so excited, but I think it's really a point of celebration. And you know, just like Cheryl was saying earlier, we need to find joy, which is my nickname, by the way. So every time she said, we need to celebrate joy, I was like, that's me. But we also need to celebrate the joy of being in an opportunity for us to meet new people, to grow our careers, to develop as the journalists that we are. And I think that also includes just a little bit of introduction. I don't know if all of you know each other, but I've partnered you up with a unwilling participant. So I've paired you up. There may be some trios, oops. So I want you all to partner up, ask your partner what their title is, you know, what do they do? How long have they worked in that role? What was their biggest win at work is the other piece. And then you're going to need to introduce your partner to the rest of the group. I'd like you to meet, like say, person's name is Jane Doe, whose title is at this organization or publication for so many years, and their biggest win at work was blank. So I've gotten some breakout rooms started. I know that some of you all are trying to get deadlines done and things of that nature, but I am going to make sure that all of you are assigned to a room. And I believe we've got everyone, yep, we've got everyone assigned to a specific room. I'm not sure, again, how did the introduction feel? How did you feel hearing yourself introduced? Michael had mentioned that he was floored by his introduction with Kyle. What else was everyone feeling?
I think Nicolette should consider broadcast journalism. She's also very good at introduction.
And Marissa, who were you saying should be in?
Nicolette.
Oh,
thank you.
Broadcast journalism as well.
I think I might have to take up that idea.
Yeah.
All right, Nicolette, you're paving a path. You just got out. You know, you're on your way. You've got a lot of different paths.
My whole life ahead of me.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right.
Excellent. So as you were introduced, did anyone enjoy the attention? Were they like soaking it in, or were some people kind of like, How are we feeling with that? You can put your feelings in chat too.
I did not enjoy the attention. I think I like writing, because with writing you kind of like you get to almost be like a producer or something, like on TV. You're not the on air, so you like get to get your thoughts and your ideas and your feelings out there, and no one has to look at you. But it's like when people are talking about you, I don't know, it almost feels like you're just a different person or something. It's weird.
It's a weird feeling, right? It's almost like an out-of-body experience, Michael.
Yeah, it very much is an out-of-body experience, because like Kyle, he made me sound like I was Barack Obama, and then here I am like chopped liver. So yeah, that was different. It was definitely different.
Did anyone else feel the same way as Michael?
Yeah, I would like to share. This is Kayla again, just in listening because I was literally in transition. And I was like, oh, he's introducing me. And I was listening. And I'm also a preacher, so I get introduced often. You know, people read my bio before I get up and speak. And I'm just saying, like, I would love for him every time I go out and preach to just come up and talk about me. He makes me sound much better than what my bio says. So I just thought it was great to see, you know, just in a little bit of time of how people really see me. Because when you write your bio, you're just writing the accolades that you think are great and what you think of yourself, and people read it. But once you get to talk to someone and they introduce you just from their understanding of you, it's even more special because it's like, this is what I am to that person. Yeah. And I appreciate it.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Kayla. Did anyone feel it was hard to share their win with their buddy?
I thought it was hard just because, you know, at my company, we're just going through a lot of turmoil, you know, right now. And so I actually have to commend Roberto because, you know, I told him a number of things. I think we were both sort of struggling with the win part, but it's just a particularly a time of just great turmoil in my company. And so, you know, even though I do what I call invisible work that people don't see when I'm raising my voice and supporting and other things, it's hard to feel like it's just hard to feel like we're winning, you know, right now, just because of everything that's going on.
Seems like it's an inappropriate time to kind of marinate in some joy because of what's going on, Yvette?
No, it wasn't that. It's just because of the state of where we are. It's just hard to look at any of it and see when.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, I mean, so it's not, you know, it wasn't a feeling of I have this win, but I really shouldn't say anything. It wasn't that. It's just that we're at a very critical point in time.
Yes.
You know, and you know, and so that's tough, you know, just looking around, you know, at where we are and where we need to get to and the work that we need to do and think when.
Yeah, it can be very humbling. But as you can see from other people's perspectives, what you're doing is fantastic work, phenomenal work. And we need you. We need your voices. We need your ears and your eyes and your voices to amplify what's going on. And it is definitely something to celebrate. It is a win. Not to discount your feelings, and I completely understand that, but I definitely think it's an interesting thing, right, to take a step back and talk about things that you've achieved when you're kind of just doing your thing. You're just going through the motions. I'm also reading from Tiffany here. She said she was soaking it in. I think that we tell so many other stories that we can forget the importance of our own, especially if we are a member of the communities that we write about. It's not always comfortable to hear yourself be talked about or praised, but it's affirming in a way to remind yourself that, yes, I'm doing good work and it has value. And we don't marinate. Yes, Michael says, in the importance of our stories. Eric, being introduced is necessarily because you need to be able to hear your growth and accomplishments to know how far you've come and how far you can go. And yes, everyone's like, meaningful. Cheryl's like, amen, Eric, that's a great point. And it's great to know where you come from, to see everything that you've accomplished and where you are. And that's an important piece of why we are doing this webinar tonight, is because we may be attending virtual conferences. You know, we are now living in a world that is very Zoom, WebEx, whatever other platform that you can think of friendly, and want to talk about the benefits of your attendance to that. The importance of visibility as a person of color. I have a methodology that we need to get into our mindset before attending a conference, not even just a conference, but any type of virtual experience where you're meeting different people and different minds and different thoughts. We'll talk about building your professional brand and the art of effective networking in a virtual environment, which I gave you a little dash of that right now in our opening experience. So, I mean, all of us know that the benefits of attending a conference are just to get information, right? But it's also an opportunity for us to grow our network, expand our knowledge and skills and problem-solving skills, and present all that goodness that you all have in your thought leadership. Not just on the page, like Michael was saying, he's like, you know, I'm kind of like a producer. I kind of like to be backstage. I'm also an actress and singer. I'm telling you, I'm going to market myself to all of you so that I can get featured in the Inquirer again, or on any of your media outlets, because that's just how I am. Anyway, I'm going to ask for it. You don't know unless you ask. But anyway, you have thought leadership and you want to share that. You can present your thought leadership in this forum. And it's also an opportunity for you to stretch beyond what your confines are. You know, we've learned to kind of stay in a box. And this is an opportunity for us to get outside of the cubicle or virtual cubicle and field of interest so that we can learn new things and then bring that back to our virtual spaces, right? Not only to develop ourselves professionally, but personally, and increase that visibility that we may need to do. So what is visibility? And that's another reason why I had you all introduce each other. But it's being a valuable resource to the business. It's being respected and trusted, standing out in a good way. It's what people are saying when you're not in the room or offline, when you're not on camera. It's about speaking up and making statements that are impactful and sharing that wonderful sparkle and magic that you all have about the solutions, because all of you are leaders. You're not bringing problems to the table. You're bringing solutions, and it comes through in the storytelling that you're doing. So visibility is key, but it's about not just your stories being visible, but you being visible in that space, not only in an in-person situation, but virtually. So let's talk a little bit about this, because it really speaks to being to our brand. Let's chat a little bit. Let's talk about visibility as a person of color, or our invisibility as a person of color. And why does that have anything to do with attending a conference? Why is Joyel talking about visibility and conference attending?
Can I add something to that?
Lisa, yes.
Recently I asked a question in a forum, and because I was curious about the answer, and I wanted to have discussion, and I realized it wasn't being had, and it was really just kind of innocent in a way. And it started a whole conversation about why the conversation wasn't appropriate for that forum, or who should be facilitating the conversation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it blew up into, apparently a lot of people had a lot of things to say. They just yeah. And it blew up into a whole big thing, which to a degree kind of went completely far away from where it began. And during the process, a number of voices, particularly women of color, were shut down. We were literally shut down. Like, we were muted, we were, the comments were closed, and such. And it was striking, because within the experience of being in that group, it wasn't the first time, but it was a slam of a door, yeah. As opposed to, you know, I think we're gonna close soon. Yeah, no, we don't have anything here that you want, kind of, you know. It wasn't, it was like Oprah going into Hermes and them saying, no.
Yes.
We don't care who you are.
It was communication whack-a-mole. It was just
it was completely.
Yes.
Completely. So yeah. We got through though.
You know, and that is visibility. You know, you're asking a question that really developed some thought, but then when the people who needed to voice their opinions were shushed, silenced, You know, tell me more about that. Is how else is everyone feeling? That's a great example, Lisa, of visibility, and your interactions or experience with it.
This is Cherry. Can I
Cherry.
comment on this?
Yes.
Yes. I'm 5'11", so I could never get away with anything. 5'11" means you're very visible, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. You know, I would get spotted in the conference room. Cherry took the last donut, whatever. So you could never really like say you didn't do it. That wasn't me. And so I decided to flip it and use it for good, right? Because if I'm forced to be seen, even when I'm trying to hide, I might as well stand in the open and make myself heard, right?
Yes.
And so I think it took a lot of years to develop courage to actually find the words to say what needed to be said. But I've learned to like say it in different ways depending on the audience, because people don't always receive what you have to say based on who you are, who they are, and the platform or the room in which you are sitting. And
Right.
so you almost have to like code switch based on who you're talking to, where you are, the occasion, but there's a way to say everything you need to say.
Absolutely.
And I've learned that by having what Lisa had happen to her happen to me. But it just took literally tenacity and follow up and just forcing it in. Because after all, if you can't be unseen, you might as well be seen and heard. And that's been my theory. And it's worked. And I will tell you a quick story of one time I was on a diversity and inclusion board. They asked me my opinion on someone. I told them the truth, nothing but the truth. They disregarded my opinion, and I was right. I was right times 100. And then everybody, after that, it was like, Cherry, what do you have to say?
What do you need to say, Cherry? Cherry,
let's give Cherry a chance to speak here. Because we were so wrong. And I was the naysayer. I was the one who said we should not do this. And it blew up in it blew up in everybody's face. But I said what I needed to say. I didn't roll over. And that was one of the proudest moments in my career. And that's one of the reasons why I always stick to my guns no matter what.
Absolutely. And
Sorry for the long talk.
No, Cherry, it was perfect. Well articulated, because I love it. You know, if you have to be unseen, then you might as well be seen. And if you're unseen, you might as well be seen and heard. And your voice, it's so important to amplify and the resilience that it's taken, you know, when we are invisible, that we need to continue to just pick up and move on. And in the professional way, Cherry said, she didn't say, I told you so, but everyone knew that she was saying, I told you so, when she was speaking up about this thing and not hindering your values. And I think that that's an important piece of not only what you bring to your everyday, but what else you're bringing to a public forum, so that we're not muted, that we are putting ourselves out there and speaking. It's hard. And Kayla says she's short, but I use my big personality in most situations. Me too. Vertically challenged people, you know, we got it rough too. So we do have to speak up and use our personality as well. We find the assets that make us stand out in a good way, and not let things become an adversity, or let our adversities become our celebrations. What else? What other thoughts do we have on visibility and being a person of color, and how this plays out in a conference setting or in a virtual setting? How else are we seen and heard?
I was gonna add that for me, this is something that I've often I would not say struggle with in terms of getting out there as a journalist, but for a long time I thought that visibility had to mean, oh, you work for the Washington Post or you work for the New York Times or I don't know, the Miami Herald. I guess the reality of journalism is that there are like so many few legacy publications, big websites, or whatever. And with that in mind, it's like you get once you can get away from that, it allows you to see that there's important work being done everywhere, whether it's a smaller newsroom, whether it's a multi-billion-dollar media corporation. So when I think about visibility as a person of color, I think of myself like, hey, what is the best opportunity I can give myself to show up?
Yes.
Because more than likely, there's everybody else that looks like me, and people that don't look like us, quite honestly, are having the same issues internally. But the biggest thing is like just giving yourself a chance and showing up. And so I remember like going to NABJ for the first time in 2016, and like I looked like a little kid like on Christmas or something. Like it was astonishing. I had never seen so many Black, brown journalists that look like me, that all look like they belong there. And I think a big issue we struggle with as journalists of color is that we don't belong.
Right.
Whether you're the only kid in your class in a journalism course in college, whether you might be the only Black face in your newsroom, what have you. And so I think as time has passed on, and it's something I'm still trying to practice today, just understanding that if I can show up as myself and express myself as myself, there's so much value in that.
Absolutely.
So showing up is like really important for us, because like, if we don't push ourselves, no one else will.
It's true, Michael. Absolutely. If you don't show up, there's so many people, even though we can't see them, the visibility is so important, because to me, I feel like if you can't see it, I think Miss Universe said it a few years ago, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And I feel like that is so imperative in the work that we have, and we have to show up. Even if we get knocked down, we've got to show up twice as strong, because that's what it's all about. It's about resilience as well as visibility. I see Afia saying here, great point. Yes, some things you may think that you have to work at the top outlets to be seen, but it's not necessarily the platform. Your work can speak for itself. It's about showing up, and someone out there needs to hear your voice. That is, it's not the title. People need to hear your voice. That is to me, I feel like you are evangelists, that you all need to share your voice in some way. Tiffany, I think that so often journalists of color are looked to educate others on their existence. We're often looked to in order to explain our trauma. And I think what I had to learn about visibility is that I don't have to only write about pain for my work to matter, or for my work to move folks. Yes, I can write about the joy or the mundane and still be seen. Absolutely. It doesn't have to be a narrative where it's just like we're coming up from, toiling and struggling, like there are struggles in the office or in the workplace, or from the success, and celebrating that. And that too matters. And that helps bust the myths and certain prejudices and stereotypes that come along. Again, Black joy matters. And again, I'm going to get a shirt that just says that, because I love it, because I'm Black and I'm joy. And I love that whole thing. It's a double entendre and I'm stealing it. Okay. So let's get on with this. So Tiffany totally hit the nail on the head, and somebody needs to find a screen print person who does t-shirts so we can all wear that shirt. So how to get the most out of your conference experience. It is so important for us to get the most out of what we're doing, even virtually. And one key thing is that I wanted to share with you is that you have to rise. And this is a methodology that I have formulated out of the 20 years of leadership development and human resources experience that I've had, and growing leaders for as long as I have been doing it. Yes, I started working when I was 12. So I just want to say that too. But how do you rise? How do you use the Rise method before attending a virtual conference? First of all, any type of social event that you're going to virtually or in person is time to reflect on your goals and your intentions. That is the first thing. Think about it. take a pause for the cause and stop and reflect on what your goals and intentions are for this conference. I know that Cheryl shared a few of them before we started this webinar. I is identify and your networking opportunities. Who's going to be there? Who's speaking? What sessions am I going to attend? And that means strategizing a smart action plan to get the most out of this conference. You know, it's a gift that you've been given. So let's get the most out of the gift. You know, just like a company gives us benefits, hopefully you're getting benefits. If you're not, you know, you're getting some benefits somewhere else, but you gotta take the most out of these benefits that you're given. This is a gift. So how are we going to do that? We got to make sure that we've got an action plan put together and then take action, which is execute on that action plan to drive your career, because the mission is to make sure that we get a whole bunch out of this experience. So let me tell you about my reflection. Months ago, when I was talking to Cheryl, I told her about how much I love going to conferences and getting the most out of them. And I had the opportunity to go to the Black Enterprise Women of Power Summit. And I set some intentions. And one of them was to meet and speak to and get a quote, a direct quote from the CEO and president of Black Enterprise Magazine, Earl Butch Graves Jr., so that I could share his advice with all of you. That was my first intention. My second intention was also to just get as much education and information about building my business, making it, cultivating it, growing it, networking with all of the organizations that were there, introducing myself to as many people as I possibly could who were in charge of the conference, because like I said, I like to speak. I like to interview people for my show, as well as the work that I do in training and executive coaching. So I wanted to make sure I marketed myself and meet the conference owner, and finally just get as much as I possibly could, like, for my business from this. That was my intention. First night of the conference, I had my laser, like, I'm like the Terminator. I'm like, okay, I gotta find him. I gotta find him. I gotta find him. I'm talking to other people I've been stalking on LinkedIn and from TV shows, and I'm meeting them and taking selfies. And I'm in the middle of talking with a very important person, and I shout at Earl, and I'm like, I need you. I need your brain. And he was just like, what? And I was just like, I need to talk with you. I have an intention set, and I've got a mission. I'm talking to a lot of journalists of color who have the opportunity to go to a conference, and I want your advice. What advice would you share with them? And I was doing this all this is all between the selfie I got with him and walking to the event, because it hadn't even started. I was in the way. I stood in the way of him starting the conference. But I was telling you, my intention was true. And so I needed to get this. And so he said to me, have an on-purpose intention to going to the conference. You just can't go to the conference to network, you know, and just hubbub and rub elbows or virtual elbows with people. There has to be a goal. My goal was to grow my business. And part of this is growing my business. And so I thanked him for his time. He said, thank you. And then he rushed onto the stage. Oh my gosh. So I almost made the conference start late, but I got my quote, y'all. Intention met. So what are the things that you're going to reflect on? What is the intention? What's your goals? I know that a few of you have already stated what your goals are, but maybe it needs a little fine tuning. What are your goals? Identify who's going to be there. Make the time. If we are in a virtual space and you've got all of these different things, I know some of you were like hosting your shows and getting things in for a deadline. You've got to make the time. So make the time and create a space that's free of distractions. When you're in a virtual setting, anything goes. You know, we've got everybody living up in our house. We've got our partner, we've got our pets, we've got our kids. Anything goes. I've got trains, I got the Petco running over here. We've got to make sure we create a safe space that allows us to concentrate and focus. And check out the conference agenda. Who's speaking? Who's going to be there? You know, who's gonna, what kind of questions are you gonna ask to see? See, just like I said, dogs. We got pets. What breakout sessions are you going to? Are they in alignment with your intentions? You know, like, so there's a lot of breakout sessions that you see in the agenda, and sometimes those things just don't make sense in alignment with what you're trying to get out of this conference experience. Are they interesting? And if one's like a dud, do you have a backup so that you're not sitting in there for an hour and change? And here's the other piece, is identifying ways to stay connected using the tools that they have provided. Almost every conference, virtual or in person, has an app. And this is the way that you can talk and chat and text and connect with people's profiles, check them out before the conference, see who the speakers are, connect with them on LinkedIn. And that is a whole nother webinar for another time. But those are the things that we need to be focusing on. And then once we have that action plan, the key is to get the most out of the experience. So is it smart? My goal was to meet the CEO and president of Black Enterprise Magazine before the end of that conference. Did I know I was going to meet him for the first time? Absolutely. I had no idea I was going to meet him for the first time in the first day. But my goal was a heat-seeking missile trying to find him and the head of the conference before the end of the conference. So make sure that it's specific, that it's measurable, that you have, that it's something attainable and realistic. I think some people might say that my goals were a little bit unrealistic, but when I see something I want, I go out and get it, and that's my tenacity. What are your superpowers? Tap into those superpowers as you're virtually looking, if you're attending a conference still in a virtual situation. What is it? And actually, you can it's a little easier reaching out to somebody virtually than in person sometimes, as you know. So time bound, making sure that it's something not like next year I'm going to talk to the keynote speaker from the conference I attended. No, do it. Do it before the conference is over. It's a great way to introduce yourself to that person. Then we got to take action. We've got to execute on that action plan. We got to make that agenda that the conference sends to you work for you. You all are doing amazing work and you're super busy, but you got to make that schedule work for you. If you don't need to process or if you need to process or marinate after the sessions, do it. It's a lot to be on a conference call or a WebEx or a webinar or a Zoom call for 8 hours at a clip. But if you need to just take a step back and come back a little bit after the scheduled break, do it. Self-care is key when you're going to a virtual conference, especially because the strain on your eyes of looking at a screen or a tiny screen on the regular can be exhausting. And don't worry, you're not going to miss anything. There's going to be replays. People are paying way too much money to be just having this stuff, go willy-nilly. So there will be people recording it. So that's also helpful. If you ever have to be on screen and you need a fix your face buddy, find them. Do you know what a fix your face buddy is? That's the person who may send you a chat and say, you know what, Roberto, you need to fix your face. You're showing all your emotions are on your face. Or you know that one of your pals is going to be there and you have a tendency to run late to the sessions. Maybe they could shoot you a text message and say, hey, Joyel, it's 5 minutes into the session. Where are you? I don't see you here on the list. Have that accountability buddy to help you stay close to your goals. That's Roberto just checked his face. Also, create an introduction and keep in touch template. So I'm all about efficiency. If you have an introduction template, and this works for any kind of networking situation, especially for conferences, is have a little template. You can use your notes, or if you have an Android, you can have a notepad, or Keep is a good note-keeping app for your phone. Obviously you guys know how to take notes on your phone, you're journalists, but anyway, make sure that you create those templates, because then you could just cut it and paste it into the introduction, into the chat box when you're meeting new people. Hey, I'm Joyel Crawford. I've been blah, blah, blah. You can even do your intro that you did here at the Icebreaker, or keep in touch. It was really great meeting you in the virtual space. Let's keep in touch. In fact, I'm hoping that all of you are getting your keep in touch templates together for today for this webinar. And also making sure that you keep your professional brand. Even though we're in a virtual space, our brand is our bond, and it's really important. You know, we may represent different organizations, different radio stations, different publications, but we have to keep our professional brand intact. So how do we improve our professional brand? Well, first of all, we want to make sure it's really more important that we're actively sharing our why with others, right? How you act and react and show up. We talked about this visibility piece. In essence, your brand is the milkshake that brings all the boys and girls to the yard. It is so important for us to keep our brand top of mind, especially when we're in a virtual space. Making sure your camera's off, making sure your mic is muted. A lot of times I have a tendency to talk when other people are talking. You know, I have my own little commentary. Make sure your mute is on. That would be extremely embarrassing, as you're like, this person is the worst speaker in the world, and here you are, and it's being amplified to hundreds of people. So make sure that you keep your brand top of mind. Another reason why to have a brand, again, it's really increasing, on top of all the other things that I have on this slide, it increases your credibility as an authentic leader. Authenticity is a piece that goes in hand with the visibility. And that's really important for us to make sure we do that. Oh, Roberto, I've had success using a Google Labs plugin called Canned Responses to store and manage email templates. That's a key thing. Thanks for that tip, Roberto. See, growing our network, learning new things, and also having a brand really takes us to the next level, and it really puts you in the driver's seat for your career. So I've been doing a lot of talking, and I want to do a little bit of touchback. Why do you think, in the chat, why is it important for people to know you, and do they know you in a good way? Do they know you in a good way? Let's chat about it. What does the chat say? What are people saying about you when you leave the virtual room? What's your brand? I know that when I left Verizon Wireless after 18 years of working there in the corporate space, I kind of, to start my own business, because I burned out, you know, to be quite honest with you. I didn't lose this hair naturally. So as we see, I burned out, and I was like, maybe I burned some bridges, but here it is 5 years, 6 years later, since I've left the organization, and my name was mentioned. It came up, and it was met with joy and adulation and praise. And I was like, that's good. My brand is still intact after 5 years of leaving that place. So let's see, Michael, if people don't know who you are, they probably don't know, they can't possibly know your goals. Absolutely. You gotta, stop hiding your light under the bushel. We gotta know who you are. Knowing you in a good way gives new contacts a boost in connecting with you from hearing good things ahead of the connect. Absolutely. It really helps your brand where people just, I've heard good things about you. Or that old thing, like where people are, I've heard a lot about you. And I'm always like, good things, I hope, haha, but really it's important. Lisa says, traditional journalism says you should strive to be the messenger, not to be mistaken with the message. But for BIPIC, you are always the message and the messenger. That is the truth. The trick or goal is having control over that narrative. Amen, Lisa. You need to write a blog or something on top of everything else that you're doing, because you're dropping some major knowledge here. So we've got to think about that. Roberto says building a brand reverses the flow of information, more frequently inbound tips, as opposed to us chasing the story. Yes, people are like, I'm going to go right to this person because they are the ones that have what it takes. Good words there, controlling the story. This is all amazing. It is so important for us. Our brand, it gives us credibility. It builds that trust, like I was saying. So it's so important for us to continue to keep our brand top of mind. Again, some of the things when we're thinking about building our brand is figure out, who are you? You tell your story in 1 second. Exactly, Kayla. Who are you? What's your mission and your goal? And is your goal SMART? There goes those SMART goals again. Making sure that they're attainable. saying something that you're going to do in 10 to 15 years. Okay, that's smart. But let's talk about chunking that goal into some smaller pieces to make it more attainable. Is it being a manager or getting your own desk, or is it hosting your own show, or taking things on? So again, it's really important for us to make sure that we get those goals synthesized. Especially, yes, Cherry says your brand should align with your personal values. Kayla says, I've branded myself as a music nerd so people know that most of my work will connect back to music. Absolutely. Absolutely. These are so key to keep our brand in mind. So when we think about it, let's marinate. And I'm going to give you a moment to think about your current role, about who you are and what you do and what your overall goal is. And is that career goal smart? And if you need some more time to marinate, jot this down. This is your lowercase h homework for tonight. Think about that. Who am I? What's my goal? And where am I going? Is it smart? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? Maybe you need somebody to, help you out with that brand. All right. So I've got some tips on how to do, how do you make your professional brand? How do you build your professional brand? And one of my colleagues at the Muse, I coach with the Muse, and it's about developing a brand mantra. Just like a product has a brand, it's really the heart and soul. Your mantra is the heart and soul of your brand as you're building it. So when you're thinking about developing your brand, first of all, you've got to get people's emotions. You've got to capture it. How do you want to make people feel? How do people benefit with working with me? What, how do they feel after, I've worked with them over the phone or connected with them? It would be especially helpful to know how to brand and build when you do so. Exactly. When you do so many things, I think you got to connect to your why. I think that that's a huge piece. Is have that drive your brand, Tiffany. So think about the words that others use to describe you to connect to that emotional appeal. And then think about the description, things that you can consider while you're determining your description. What field or industry am I in? Or what do I want to be in? Maybe there's a different department I want to work in. What are the words I would use to describe my work, and who's my target audience? Again, when you have so many multiple hats on, you want to connect to that why. Not the what. What's the why? What is your purpose? Okay. Some other questions to think about is about your function. What service do I have to offer people? And what do I do that makes me stand out from everyone else? And again, this might be one of those feelings of feeling like a humble brag. But, again, what's that milkshake that brings all the boys and girls to the yard? What makes me stand out from everyone else when you're considering your brand? I saw this quote and I posted it on my social media because I thought it was so deep, and it came up, as one of my quotes of the day. And I think it fits in the space of attending conferences, but also in branding. Is knowing others is knowledge, but knowing yourself is wisdom. And I think we get so wrapped up in the minutia of doing our work that we forget about the work that we need to do for ourselves. And this is also important about, and Lisa was talking about, well, if we wear all these hats, how do we get to our brand? It's about getting comfortable with our why. How are we talking about ourselves? Because I know that I have said some things to myself I wouldn't even say to my cherished loved ones. How are we talking to ourselves? Are we talking with self-compassion? Are we talking with empathy? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What makes you jump out of bed? And what do you do? Why do you do what you do? And does it make your mouth water? Do you still have that passion? Share that passion. It's important. Saving local journalism is Jim's why. And the key is leading with your why and not with your what. The what for some people could be being featured or winning an award, or maybe it's, I don't know, it could be seeing the pride in your parents' eyes. Who knows? But what's the why? I want to motivate and inspire as many people as I possibly can before I leave this earth. That's what my why is, to motivate and inspire as many people to achieve their goals. That's it. Yeah. And Joe says, I think if our purpose is clear to us, it comes through in our interactions with others, and that helps them understand us and opens up new doors. There's that visibility piece, and you can be visible while being virtual. And Michael says, I agree, doing a lot of things makes it hard. I definitely want to think about my why more. Absolutely. Take some time. Take a pause for the cause, as one of my colleagues likes to say, and think about that why. So once you've gotten that together, now I'm not saying we're all going to have it all together tonight, but once you've gotten some of those things together, you want to put it all together, mix it up, look at those 3 lists of words and combine it into a short sentence or phrase. Make sure it's memorable, and it should feel inspiring. Definitely inspiring. Here's my my branding mantra. It's a little longish. You know, I'm an expert leadership consultant that inspires others to step into their power with confidence and clarity. So I shortened it up. I grow leaders for a living. And let me tell you, when I tell people that, they're like, tell me more. Wow, that was a pretty punchy line. Tell me more about how you grow leaders for a living. Someone thought that I was some type of, I don't know if she was like paying attention, but she said, how do you grow leaders? Is it like, you know, do you plant them? And I was like, no, leaders like people. I don't know why she thought leaders was like a plant, but but it was just interesting. So think about what your branding mantra will be. And I know I'm going through this a little bit fast, but we're running out of time, and I've got so much more to share with you. Yes. So again, I want to encourage you all and challenge you all to think about your professional brand. And I'll share this deck with Cheryl so that you all have a copy, so that you can go back to it in the modicum of free time that you do have, in addition to saving the world and reporting the truth. So in all of that, if you have some time, I do think it's important for you to take the time to marinate on it. Quick. I love to network. I will network with virtually anybody, as you can see. So I think it is so important for us to talk quickly about networking in the virtual space. So this is what you're probably used to hearing or seeing. Let's just show this quick clip.
That's good.
Hey. Hey, man. Hey. So I was just scoping out the vibe of the room, trying to figure out who to talk to. I noticed that you guys were standing with a little gap in between each participant of the conversation, so I thought you'd be more welcoming to a newcomer.
Of course, I'm Dave.
But I promise that I will be slow and make a meaningful connection with both of you. And I am not just looking for a new client or an investor.
Oh, you know what we were just saying?
So I have like a list of topics that I'm willing to talk about. One of them is the latest sporting event, or the stocks. The stocks that they go up, but then they come right back down, you know? And now I'll respond with a piece of conversation that's unique to me, like a restaurant tip, or my opinion on a political event, but it won't be too edgy of an opinion. I understand that I've been talking a lot, but I promise I will take time to listen to you guys, to let you talk about things that are interesting to you, to ask you questions. I will lean in while you're talking, raise my eyebrows a little bit like this, and say things like, really? I see. So, what do you guys want to talk about?
I'm gonna get a drink.
Really? I see.
I need to go to the bathroom.
Really? You didn't get my card.
I mean, what are you doing? You could just talk like a person.
Really?
Yeah.
I see.
It seems like you read an article on networking.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I see.
Stop doing that.
Really?
Really.
I see.
I see too.
You're good.
Oh, I know all of you were like, oh my gosh, it's terrible. Oh, it was terrible. It was so painful. I'm so sorry to put everyone through that. I see too. Yes, indeed. It was painful. It is one of the key things that I wanted to make sure we highlighted about networking is it's not just for finding the next job. The key is that it helps you create lasting relationships. And the good thing about virtual networking is that you're not going to have these painful experiences in person like that poor guy did on the video. So introductions, like I said, introductions don't have to be horribly painful. Have those templates ready. Get them in your notes. Write out, hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. I work for blah, blah, blah. And I'm really excited to be here. Looking forward to meeting you. And you can have that done before or after or during the conference as you're enjoying it virtually. You can just have that template, copy it and paste it and slap it in, okay? And that is how you do your intro. How to get the conversation started. These are some great tips on how to get the conversation started. One of my favorites, and I was sharing this with Cheryl the other day, is blame me. Just tell everybody that my executive coach is making me introduce myself to a couple people, at least 10 people today. Can you help me with my homework? You can blame it on me. It can totally be my fault. But the thing about it is, just starting off with things that you have in common. Why did you choose to attend here? What inspired you to get into journalism? What tips do you have for an introvert like me who's trying to mix and mingle virtually? And keep it moving. If you're in a breakout room, you could say, oh, I see, somebody I know in this breakout room. Roberto's in the breakout room. Have you two met, and introduce each other that way. It still can be done in a virtual setting and not be so painful. But be prepared. Lisa, do you introduce yourself from where you are or where you want to be? This is if you are a brand in transition. I think that it's very intriguing when people have mysterious introductions. Not so mysterious that you're just like it comes off across as like a pickup line, Lisa, but more of a mysterious thing of, I'm a future fill in the blank. My goal is to be blah, blah, blah in the next 5 years. Maybe sharing your goals with people is a nice way of starting the conversation off. I've told people that one of my goals is to be the next best thing since Oprah. People are like, wow, that's a kind of ambitious thing to say. Well, it gets the conversation started. So let's talk about it, and people are like, hey, growing leaders for a living. Hey, that's a wide thing, but you can be creative with this. I think the thing is to think about, most of the time, everyone's just feeling a little uncomfortable and gun shy being in front of strangers, but I think it's important. I think that's a great tip. Introduce who you are going to be. Why not? Oh yes, Kayla, that's right. You're gonna be better than Oprah. That's right. Absolutely. Let's bring it on. We're gonna add it to the list. Absolutely. So virtual networking, things to keep. That's right, Lisa. Oprah who? That's I love it. I love it. So the key to virtual networking is to continue to do the things that you would typically do in a real life space. You can set up virtual coffees to connect with the attendees. I also say that this is also going to help you with your brand by connecting into LinkedIn at least once a day. Get your social media up. I know some of you are on Facebook already and IG. Go into LinkedIn. That's another professional place where a lot of people are looking for talent and for assistance, and it's a way to amplify your voice, and it's especially hot right now. for diversity. Diversity, I mean, you can't throw a stick without talking about diversity and inclusion. If you want to shop an idea, LinkedIn is a great place to do that as well. Actively participate in professional groups like this, or group chats, or online forums. Share your thought leadership, share that magic. You know, I know that that's part of what you do, but there are other outlets. Maybe reach outside of the outlets that you're working in. If that's not a conflict of interest, I don't want you getting in legal trouble. But also be consistent about it. If you're on social media, make sure you're responding to the comments. Make sure that you're responding to the people that are following you. And then you can professionally stalk people that you admire. One last tip is how to be a professional stalker and not get arrested. I think it's so important that when you're going to these conferences, if there's a person that makes your mouth water and you really want to know who they are and get onto the top of their list, or have that dream interview with them, research that person. You can virtually meet with them in the chats. It's the perfect introduction. I think that you are so key and primed for having this opportunity. Learn how they got into their careers. Plus, it's a great visibility win, and you could gain a mentor or sponsor out of the whole thing. I'm an ancient foundation executive. Jim, you're too funny. All right, so again, networking best practices. Again, just like if you're in person, you want to keep it to one person at a time. It can be really overwhelming being in a breakout room with like tens of thousands of people, but stick to one person at a time so that you're not getting confused about your conversations. Again, use your resources, use your background, drop some names, but don't be obnoxious about it. And remember, in the key of networking is that it's not about you. It's your intentions and your goals. It's about making sure that you're reaching those things, that you're rising to the occasion of this conference. Get your act together, get your hair done, shave your head, whatever it is. I know that we have been in quarantine, but you know what? Just trim it up a little bit. You know, wear your business mullet, business on the top, party on the bottom, you know, figure it out. Make sure that you've got a clean shirt on, you know, if you're on camera, and keep it light, keep it light. And the key piece to networking and building these relationships is to follow up. And make sure that you are aware. Minda Harts wrote this amazing book, if you have not read it, best-selling book, and she's a colleague of mine now, because what I said I was going to meet her and work with her one day, and I set that intention. What happened? We were speaking at the same conference the next year. What stuff happens after 6 p.m.? All these conferences have sponsors that have been pulling this off. They may have breakout rooms that are specific for millennials or iGen or for Xers or for people of color or for certain diversity group. Make sure you keep an eye on that. It happens after 6. You may need to network after the conference, the virtual conference is over. But this is the one thing I want you to leave with. If you don't remember anything I've said tonight, it's my $1 million executive coaching advice that I featured in Forbes.com. Always approach every interaction with the intention of collaboration and support. Always, always. This is in networking. This is in negotiations. This is in talking with your supervisor. This is in talking with your team members. If you need to coach upward, you need to code switch and talk about how to communicate so that you are heard instead of being muted because of the diverse or anti-diverse thoughts of someone else. Make sure your message is heard. And in order to do that, to amplify your voice, to be seen, to be visible, is to set that intention every time with collaboration and support. You are going to go far. I will tell you, I've entered into that type of mindset in any kind of interaction I've had, and I've always won. Always won. So that is my advice for you to leave with tonight.